Originally, they had heard that there was a secret realm here, so they had come in to explore the opportunities, but it was unthinkable that these great clans had gotten word that there was only one exit. At once, they surrounded the place, both for the harvest, and also without the need to cut down some of the evil ones here. Among them, Old Taoist Cloud Puppet could be said to have a great reputation on the western continent side. A handful of puppet arts had destroyed who knows how many sect celestials. The strength was so strong that he was even able to use the Heaven Realm to defeat a Mortalization Realm powerhouse. Coming in was hearing that this was the ancient Dan Realm, with the rumored existence of the Divine Barrier breaking Dan. It was able to allow him to break away from his mortal body and transform to the Transfiguration Realm. That's why he ventured into this place. It didn't occur to me that something happened that everyone didn't want to see. The human race had surrounded this place just to capture them. Fortunately, Old Taoist Cloud Puppet was also worthy of being an old devil of accumulated years, with extraordinary means, finding a way out even here. Only this way out is not good, and it takes the combined efforts of many people to put it in order to escape. So, fellow Taoists, those who are named below, follow me. If you don't want to come over, then please leave. Not long after, the golden armored general who had brought Chu Feng and walked out and said in a cold voice. For a moment, the eyes of the crowd were on him. Coming, Bai Yunzi looked at the golden armored general with a hint of playfulness in his eyes. What do you mean? Chu Feng listened to the uncertainty and opened his mouth at that moment. Haven't you always wanted to leave? Now what Old Cloud Puppet Road is doing is gathering the strength of most of the people and preparing to start moving. Bai Yunzi looked at Chu Feng somewhat strangely. This person really doesn't get it, or he's just faking it. If you want to leave, you definitely need to gather everyone's strength to do so. If you were to flee directly like a scattered sand, no one would be able to escape. Got it. Chu Feng received a mention and understood what they meant. It's the picture that becomes a point. A full force raid. You. The golden armored general started counting people up there, and those who were counted, all left their places and converged. Chu Feng, on the other hand, was looking on in boredom. These matters should not concern him above a tiny spirit realm cultivator. After all, these were the things of the great men of the heavenly realm. He's still far from that realm. And you, who knows? The golden armored general ended up pointing at Chu Feng, as well as Bai Yunzi's two positions. It directly caused Chu Feng to be somewhat stunned. After all, it didn't seem to have much to do with him in any way, did it? It seems that the person behind you is not too bad to have been chosen. Instead, it was Bai Yunzi on the side who said in a strange manner, together? With that, he asked for Chu Feng's opinion. Okay, the place is full of vicious men, but as opposed to strangers. Chu Feng was still planning to find someone as a cover before saying anything. Immediately, Chu Feng and Bai Yunzi both walked inside side by side. Chao Qian, on the other hand, was closely following Chu Feng's side, protecting his well-being. All of you Taoists are here, so I won't say anything more. Everyone pretty much understands the situation this time. Sect cultivators death us full of heart. Now find the opportunity, will never let us go. So, Chu Feng followed these people as they walked, and in a short while, he arrived in a slightly smaller hall. There were more than a dozen cultivators sitting sporadically inside. The inner measurement of the hall has a dark golden three-stage staircase, and then there is a small table as well as a huge black and golden table and chairs. There was an old man up there talking about something at the moment. This person should be Old Taoist Cloud Puppet, he guessed. Chu Feng just quietly listened and gathered the relevant content. Through his words, Chu Feng could not help but bitterly laugh out loud. He realized that this time he should have been caught in the wave and just happened to hit the gun. The way to allocate this time is for us to converge on a formation disk, with each of us controlling an eye of the formation, and when the time comes, we'll all join forces to rush out. How's that? Old Taoist Cloud Puppet spoke loudly. The following will release the array disk. Each of you check it, and if it's okay, follow the arrangement on it and start moving. Saying that, under a wave of his hand, more than 10 jade slips seemed to have a spiritual nature, and fell to the front of the crowd in an animated manner. After checking the contents inside and finding nothing wrong with it, Chu Feng handed it over to Xiao Chen Dao. That shouldn't be a problem, should it? Xiao Chen took it, examined it, and then didn't say anything. Older brother, the two of us are positioned just next to each other, so we'll take care of each other when the time comes. At this moment, Bai Yunzi, who didn't know when, came to their side and said with a few friendly words, yes. Chu Feng faintly smiled and directly agreed. As for whether or not they'll do it later, that's a moot point. After all, this is a den of thieves, so who knows what's on the other side's mind. Old Taoist Cloud Puppet, such a brat, how did you dare to let him in? Is this your illegitimate child? Otherwise how could you arrange it like this? A rough voice snapped out at this moment. the crowdedness of the words directly causing a burst of ridicule to ring out from the great hall. It was a stout man with a rough face and a full beard, whose hands were the size of bushels, and who carried a large, dark sword at his waist. A fierce, ferocious light shot straight out of his eyes, and he stared deathly at where Chu Feng was. What's all this about? As Chu Feng listened to the words, he originally wanted to laugh. That someone would dare to curse like that, and it's still connected to the leader. So is this a screw-up? However, who knew that the other party's gaze was staring straight at him, and he couldn't laugh right away? This man dares to make fun of himself. It seems that he does not give out. These people don't take themselves seriously. Chao Qian, teach him a lesson. Chu Feng coldly snorted. Yes. Without saying a word, Chao Qian stormed up. In a flash, a terrifyingly large palm of spiritual energy swept out. Boo! Before the rough Hulk could react, he was slammed hard on the ground. However, at this time, Chao Qian did not stop. Under the surge of spiritual energy, a giant hurricane was like a sword, emitting a clanging sound, shooting towards the other party. Ah! Dragon cloud movement. When the rough cultivator saw this powerful move, he knew that if he couldn't block it, he would absolutely fall here. Immediately, he summoned the spiritual energy of his entire body and unleashed his crushing moves out. A dragon and tiger intersected with each other. As if it was a real ancient dragon and tiger in general form of spiritual power flashed its body in the great hall. Among them, the dragon form carries an untamed, lofty and unrivaled power. The other, on the other hand, was flashing with a boundless fury, as if it was truly praying. There was an extremely fierce divine light in his eyes. When, amidst the stunned gazes of the crowd, the two spiritual forces collided with a thud, emitting a loud sound. Pust. However, to one's surprise, the rough cultivator's seemingly powerful, lifelike moves in the form of dragons and tigers, intersected with Chao Qian's mediocre wind power, and was actually crushed at the touch of a button. The person himself was even smashed through several walls before landing on the ground. As soon as he fell, a steady stream of blood was spat out of his mouth, which even contained some pieces of internal organs. Surprisingly, I'm not dead yet, so let's do another move. Chao Qian sensed that his breath was weak but not hourly, and her brows immediately furrowed. The heart couldn't help but wonder about himself, if he had been playing around so much lately that he couldn't even manage such a little thing. Although the heart is so think, but Chao Qian hands cannot have a little hesitation. Huge spiritual power fluctuation flashes in the hands, the next style immediately to the person to greet over. However, at that moment, a black crystal-colored figure violently appeared in front of that person, reaching out to block this style, and old Taoist cloud puppet's voice rang out, saying, "Fellow Daoist, have mercy." Looking at the other party's movements, Chu Feng's face turned cold, and immediately said with a cold snort, "Old Taoist cloud puppet, what do you mean by this? This kid dares to humiliate my old man like this. Does he still want to live?" Chu Feng knew that if he wanted to gain a foothold here, not only should his strength be sufficient, but his means should be even more ruthless. Otherwise, fellow Daoist, this time it's the butcher who did wrong, but the situation is not to the point of death. How about for my sake, letting it go like this? As old Taoist cloud puppet looked at Chu Feng's such a forceful attitude, he could not help but smile bitterly, and his tone could not help but soften a few points. He actually didn't want to save the 7 stars, after all, who told him to keep his mouth shut? But if he wanted to activate the formation in his hand and escape from this place, he really couldn't do without this man. If that formation was to be activated, he would still need to contribute to it. I was able to continue to wait for others to come to me, but time was running out. The longer it dragged on, the higher the chance that someone outside would notice his movements. So, this man's offense can be passed off with just a few words? There's no such good deal in the world. Unfortunately, how could Chu Feng agree to it so simply for so long? If he did so himself, the effect of the authority he was trying to establish would be greatly diminished, and he would be doing a favor for old Taoist cloud puppet's reputation. Then what does the Taoist friend intend to do? Old Taoist cloud puppet frowned as he inquired. From the opponent's so few moves down, his strength was definitely not simple. One must know that although the 7-star child was in what was also the middle stage of the heaven realm, due to his cultivation of the body practicing technique, it caused him to be able to fight back and forth with late-stage existences with his mid-heaven realm cultivation. But in the hands of this kid's guards, surprisingly, they were all wasted before they could even block a single move. If not for myself. End of chapter. Chapter 131 Escape. Chapter 131 Escape. With such strength, even if he wanted to take it down, it wouldn't be a simple matter. And later on, they would have to rely on each other to rush out together. So how could they possibly feud with each other for the sake of the 7 stars? Hiss, I can't imagine that this guy is so strong that even old Taoist cloud puppet has to give in. Who isn't? Originally thought that this guy is a little sheep. Who knows that this guy is so ferocious? One strike is either death or disability. The 7 stars can now be described as being whacked instead of finding fault. But this is what happens when you don't have the strength and still want to be arrogant. Indeed, this guy is a tough one. It's best if we don't clash with him back there. For a time, looking at the 7-star child's miserable downfall, the crowd's hearts grew extremely fearful of Chu Feng. It was secretly decided that it would be best not to get into an argument with it unless it was necessary. After all, no one knew what would happen if they provoked the other side. Chu Feng inspected the people in the surrounding area with a look of panic and a bit of awe on their faces, knowing that you have now achieved your purpose. So the face was cold and indifferent. Break an arm and a leg, and hand over his storage bag. When old Taoist Cloud Puppet heard this, his face sank slightly, and after thinking for a moment, he finally agreed and said, "May, 7 stars, things have come to this, you know what to do, right?" Turning around, old Taoist Cloud Puppet had a gloomy face as he coldly grunted at 7 stars E. There was even an intimidating gaze emanating from his eyes, as if he would make a move against the 7 stars if he didn't agree. This matter was originally incurred by the other party, and if it succeeded, his own face would not look good. The 7 stars also gained the right to speak, but now a random person came out and knocked him down. All of these represent the extreme number of strong people here. Understanding this, the 7-star son said with a gloomy face and a somewhat depleted essence, "Yes." After saying that, 7-star Z clenched his teeth in death. Then fiercely 2 flashes of spiritual energy passed by. One of his kicks breaks right off with one hand. As for the storage bag on his waist, it also reached Chu Feng's hands. "How's this going to end here?" Old Taoist Cloud Puppet looked at Chu Feng and said with a calm expression. Broken arms and legs were not considered to be much of a serious injury amongst cultivators like them, and it was just a matter of taking some healing medicine to recover. As long as it doesn't hurt the meridians in your body, it's okay. Seeing that his purpose had been accomplished, Chu Feng did not continue to mess things up. In this way, these people would have to be considerate if they wanted to trap him, and that's what he's all about. You should know that the crowd of the team that escaped from here are all poor, vicious and uncontrollable people. The pits can be reckless, and Chu Feng was just worried about being pawned by these guys when he rushed out, trying to figure out what to do to show these guys that they're not to be messed with. And now, after old Taoist Cloud Puppet had finished with Chu Feng's side of the matter, he began to explain this deployment. The first thing is this formation. It's a 2-9 formation. 1 core, 18 formations. The core is the real key to the formation, is also the most important point. As long as mastered there, the side is equal to master the formation. In addition, there were 18 array eyes, which was to gather the strength of all the people to support the array. The core is the head of the formation, and the eyes are the skeleton of the formation. As long as all these things are still intact, nothing will go wrong with this formation. While Chu Feng and Xiao Chen obtained exactly one of the array eyes of one of them. As for the core, Chu Feng guessed that it should be what old Taoist Cloud Puppet had left behind for himself. After all, it was powerful and the central point of this one. Certainly to be in control. As for those weak existences in the back, they acted as the energy source of the formation. They needed to input spiritual energy into the formation and maintain the smoothness of the formation. This is the equivalent of a system in a formation. And after simply joining together, it became a powerful formation that broke through the air. Fellow Taoists should all understand clearly, right? After old Taoist Cloud Puppet finished speaking, he directly shouted, "Let's start early." Old Taoist me feels that the crisis in the secret realm is getting closer and closer. Before the Cloud Puppet old Taoist could continue to say anything, a masked cultivator below directly interrupted the other party and said, "Since everyone is so impatient, let's go out. Bring them along and get started." Being interrupted, old Taoist Cloud Puppet was not annoyed and immediately opened his mouth to reply. The crowd just followed old Taoist Cloud Puppet out. As for Chu Feng, he secretly observed and also went out together. After old Taoist Cloud Puppet went out, he gathered the remaining people who weren't very powerful but were thinking of leaving this place, and then he put the 2 palaces away and led them to a hillside, saying, "All cultivators get ready. This is where we need to break through. As long as we break through, we will be able to leave this place." Most importantly, this place was still hundreds of miles away from the passageway outside. In other words, all we have to do is escape from here and the sea is clear. Old Taoist Cloud Puppet drew the crowd's most eager gazes over. Seeing that the atmosphere was almost over, old Taoist Cloud Puppet shouted, "Air-breaking formation, form a formation." With the Cloud Puppet Elder Taoist's stern cry, the location where Chu Feng and the other hundreds of people were located violently rose up in a burst of cloudy chi, which transformed for a while before eventually becoming a dagger-like sharp blade. Among them, the location where the tip of the blade was located shifted for a while, as if the space could not withstand this strange force and was directly broken open. Break! When old Taoist Cloud Puppet saw this reaction, the corners of his mouth couldn't help but reveal a slightly smug look. He had been an extremely low-qualified existence since he was born. It was not until he entered the sect and began to cultivate that he realized that he was not very good at cultivating, but practicing some formations and so on and so forth was extremely easy, as if it were a genius. After obtaining this talent, he began to sweep through the sect, wanting to turn it into a